Hi, this is George Cao. In this video, I want to talk about something that isn't addressed in a lot of business trainings or marketing teachings. And that's the idea of what really is our goal, or rather, what really is our definition of success. If you follow a lot of business coaches, marketing trainers, uh, they continually um, force upon you in subtle ways their definition of success. I don't know about you, but I often, when I used to subscribe to the email lists of, some of my partners and other successful business coaches and marketing coaches and trainers and teachers and business gurus, they often suggest six-figure this. I just saw another one today, create a six-figure course. Or now actually it's 7 figures, and I'm sure before long it'll be 8 figures. The continual use of these terms, 6 figures, 7 figures, or live the life of your dreams, or work 4-hour work week, or the continual suggestion is that success equals being rich in money and being able to go on vacations all the time, or being able to take breaks to being able to do your hobbies all the time. And I want to ask you, is that your definition of success as well, truly? From your soul, from your highest place in your heart and in your mind, is that your definition of success? Because it might not be, but it might just be that you have been so, and you and I have been so inundated with marketing, with emails, with things we see on social media, with things we see on advertising and on mainstream media, that we have forgotten what we truly are going for. We have forgotten what is true to our soul's highest calling. In other words, we've forgotten our highest work. And so in this episode, I'm going to share a couple of main points. One is why it is so important to define what success is not. Second point is, how do we relate to the relationship between spiritual growth and worldly success? And then what are some practices that will keep us connected and on the path that we really want to be on? In other words, how do we make sure we're climbing the ladder on the right wall that we want to be climbing? Have you heard of that idea that someone works so hard all their life, they're climbing this ladder, and they get to the top and they find out it's the wrong wall. They're actually trying to go into this kingdom, but they've climbed up to this other kingdom that they don't really want to be at. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And let's just make things really, really simple, okay? To make it simple, I just want to say that the purpose of life, or true success, for my definition, and I want you to take a moment right now and answer the question for yourself. What is the purpose of life? What is true success? I would love to know what your answer is. I mean, just really the first thing that comes to mind for you, write that down. First or second or third things that come to mind for you, write that down. What is the purpose of life? What is true success? Okay. Here, I'm going to share with you my answer. My answer is very simple. The purpose of life, or true success, is spirituality through service. Spirituality through service. And if we were to go a little bit deeper, I would say it's spiritual growth through altruistic service, selfless service. Now, I don't know if you agree with me, but if you'll stay with me, I'll kind of flesh this out. And you might be wondering, well, George, where are you getting these ideas? Where is this coming from? Well, it's coming from my studies of the world's ancient spiritual traditions, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, particularly those three. But I think that other religions, probably Islam, Jainism, Sikhism, probably agree with this as well. And why is it important to look at the ancient traditions? So let me take a moment here, because there are a lot of spiritual fads. There are a lot of new spiritual teachers that say that they're getting the spiritual truth from some entity or from some being. Now, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that we need to take a step back and realize that if an idea has been passed along from one generation to another generation, okay, it's probably not a bad idea. Okay, let me stay with me here, right? How many? Just one example. How many marketing ideas or business ideas have been the hot thing 1 year, and then the next year or the year after, it's gone. Like nobody cares about it anymore, or people say it doesn't work. And yet there are some business or marketing ideas, such as get to know the mind and heart of your customer, because if you get to know their mind and heart, you will naturally produce services and products that match their mind and heart. That idea has been around for at least 100 years, if not longer. Do you see how ideas that get passed from one generation to another generation, okay, one generation found it useful, and then they pass along to their children, their nephews, their nieces, right, their grandchildren. And if this new generation finds it useful, they will also then pass it on to their children, their nephews, their nieces, their grandchildren, the children of their friends. Okay, and then if it keeps getting passed on generation after generation, what it means, it's being proven by humanity. It's being proven by the test of time. This is why I so value the ideas of the ancient traditions, because if those ideas are still with us, it's been tested by hundreds of generations. It's not just some fad, some idea that feels really hot and amazing today, but it's because we're caught up. We're caught up by whatever it may be. We're caught up by how attractive it looks. We're caught up by, manipulation sometimes, right? So the older an idea is, the more value it probably has. And a lot of times that value isn't immediately obvious, but it takes someone living a lifetime to realize, oh my gosh, that was so true, or, oh my gosh, I've been living these ideals that weren't true. And now that I'm in my older years, I realize that, oh, this is what's really true. And maybe I've been taught as a kid that this was true, but I never believed it until now, after I lived a whole life, made all my mistakes, made my successes, and then came back down and realized that the success wasn't what I really wanted. Now I know what it is. And it's the elders then pass it on to the next generation, who then have to live their life, become elders, and pass it on to their next generation. So please let us not write off the old ideas, thinking that, oh, that was institutionalized. Those ideas were, dictators or gurus that had blind followers, and therefore those blind followers pass it on to more blind followers. It's not the case. Most of the time, those ideas have profound truth. And so what I've learned from the profound truth of the ancient spiritual traditions and ancient philosophical traditions is that the purpose of life is spiritual growth. And again, this is not a popular idea. This is not an idea that I'm going to sell a lot of money with or whatever, right? And spiritual growth, what is spiritual growth? Spiritual growth, if you want to talk about in secular terms, is the growth in your virtues. It's the growth in your compassion, wisdom, courage, humility, faithfulness, joy, patience, things like that, okay? From a secular point of view, and when I say secular, I mean it can apply to everyone regardless of what your religious tradition is. That's spiritual growth. It's the growth in virtues. That's what the ancient traditions have all been trying to tell us, and it's still surviving up to today, thankfully. Now, how do we do that? Now, you could go and live in a cave, okay, and meditate and try to come up with those virtues. But the thing is this, if you don't live in society, how can you truly practice compassion, right? If you don't have to deal with other people, how do you truly practice patience or kindness or humility? So what I have learned from the ancient traditions says that true success is spiritual growth, not just by itself, but spiritual growth through the path of altruistic or selfless service. Now, if this were the last video I ever made, I feel like maybe this is enough. I've told you the truth that I hope you will pass on to the people whom you care about, that the purpose of life, that success truly is about spiritual growth through altruistic service. So in other words, yes, you can meditate. Yes, you can pray. Yes, you can journal. Yes, you can fill in the blank, fill in the spiritual practice, okay? Yes, you can do those things. But if those things are done by itself without being plugged into service, then it's not really spiritual growth. I feel like what I've learned from all these spiritual texts is that God, the higher power or the highest ideals, seems to want us to focus on serving other people altruistically, selflessly, without any return on investment, without any payment, without even any praise, without even any appreciation or possibility of it. Okay, that's what selfless service and altruistic service is. And if we practice doing that, that's not something that's easy necessarily, but if we practice doing that, we'll find ourselves growing in, guess what? Compassion, wisdom, humility, courage, joy, faith, patience. You know, all these virtues come to us if we keep and persevere on practicing altruistic service. So that's, in a nutshell, how I redefine success every day. Every day I wake up and say, all right, I'm going to see another email that suggests to me success is about building a great business. I'm going to see another social media posting that suggests to me that 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures is really what we all should be going for. That's right. I'm going to see another advertisement that suggests to me that going on vacations all the time is what success really is about. I'm going to get another, suggestion from someone else who's going to tell me that true success is being able to just hang out all the time and do your hobbies and have a lot of sensory pleasures. See, the problem with that it takes faith, right, to redefine success every day. Because if you don't have faith, then all you do is live based on what you see and what you taste and what you smell and what you hear, okay? It just live based on what society tells you and what your friends tell you and what your parents tell you and what social media tells you is the truth. So let me go on. There's actually a lot more I wanted to share with you, and I actually have a presentation, a little quick slideshow I wanted to share with you. So let's actually go right into the presentation itself. And these are ideas that I wish had been shared with me, and that I wish were continually shared with me, which aren't. And so I hope that these are truly valuable ideas, that you find them valuable as I do as well. And I'm going to actually share my screen with you so you can see the presentation. So here we go. Okay. Again, we are redefining success here, and we are talking about the purpose of life. And I'm going to suggest to you that if you have no faith in what is beyond this life, if all you do is live based on what you see, what you taste, what you hear, what you smell, what you touch, then this should be the purpose of life. This should be what success is, because this is what you can see, what you can hear, what you can feel, you know, money, fame, power, health, relationships, possessions, vacations, sensory pleasure, collecting knowledge because it makes you feel smarter and people say you're smarter, and right, convenience and speed, things always going our way, other people always doing what we want. If this is the only life, okay, if that's what you believe, then please do this, because that makes sense. All right, and the end of story, done. Close this video. Just go for these things, and whatever you need to get these things, do it, because that's the purpose of one single life. All right, because you can feel it, you can sense it. It's logical and it makes a lot of sense. Now, if you believe that there is life beyond what you can see, touch, smell, hear, and personally feel in this incarnation, then the stronger your faith is, the more you realize that the purpose of life is this. And again, the more you study the proven ideas from again, proven over from history, from hundreds of generations of humanity, okay? Logic tells us and reason tells us that this is the purpose of life. Spiritual growth, which again is faith, joy, courage, patience, humility, self-discipline, wisdom, and compassion. How do we get here? We don't get here just by going in a cave and meditating. We get here by working with other people through altruistic service. What is altruistic service? It's helping other people lessen their suffering, and more advanced, even more so, even more altruistic service is helping others lessen their suffering who will not or cannot compensate you with money, praise, or status. This is the purpose of life. This is what I suggest to you. Now let's go on, and let me actually ask you another question. What do you wish others could achieve and would achieve? All right, if you believe in this, the problem is whenever other people achieve money or fame or power, or they have lots of vacations, or they have lots of pleasure, etc., don't you feel some envy? You feel this natural envy, and let me suggest to you why you are feeling the natural envy. Because your intuition is telling you that that cannot be for everyone. That not everyone can be rich, financially rich. Because the definition of financial wealth means that others don't have as much. No, seriously, truly. If everyone had $1 billion, $1 billion would be relatively worthless. If everyone had $1 billion, a cup of coffee would probably cost $1 million. Do you see what I mean? Not everyone can be famous. If everyone were famous, nobody would be known. The fact of someone being famous, meaning someone having everyone's attention, means that there are other people who are anonymous. Not everyone can have power, okay? If someone has power, other people are powerless. Now, health is different. Now, I think everyone can have health. That's true. But the focus on health alone is part of worldly success rather than spiritual growth. A lot of people who are serious about spiritual growth, they prioritize this over their own health, and people think that's stupid, but actually it's not if you look at the most ancient spiritual teachings. Relationships, I guess actually probably true that everyone can have great relationships as well. But again, if you go and seriously study the ancient teachings, a lot of ancient spiritual teachings talk about celibacy, talk about being single. Okay, and no, this is not a popular teaching. You're not gonna teach other people, and other people go, oh, I'm so glad you taught me that I shouldn't have love, human love in my life. Okay, this is not a popular teaching, but I'm gonna tell you, we're talking about our highest work. We're just taking a moment out of our busy lives to step back and look at what may be our highest ideals. Possessions, not everyone can have all possessions that they want, okay? Not everyone can go on vacations because who's going to do the work, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So what do you wish others would achieve? Don't you wish that other people would be generous and selfless in their service? Of course you do. Because if other people were generous and selfless in their service, you would benefit, right? And so when you see someone else being selfless and generous, you don't envy them. Yes, you might envy their fame. You might envy the fact that they have power, but you don't envy the fact that, guess what? They have faith, joy, courage, patience, humility, self-discipline, wisdom, compassion. That's what we wish for other people to have, because that means they would treat us well. We wish for other people to altruistically serve, because that means we get to benefit as well. Do you see that? So this is the genius of the ancient traditions that have been teaching us, that this is the purpose of life, because if one person has this, everyone benefits. But if one person has this, it's not necessary that everyone benefits. Does that make sense? Let's go on to the next slide. I'm going to show you something here. This is why the ancient traditions have talked about renunciation and temptation. This is not for nothing, that these ideas have been passed on through hundreds of human generations. There is this idea of renunciation, which is to give up worldly experiences and success, whether in truth or whether in reality or at least in the mind, and go towards spiritual growth through altruistic service. On the other hand, all the ancient traditions have also taught us that there is something called temptation, which is to take you from here back down to worldly experiences and success. Temptation towards all these things. Okay? A focus on all these things, right? Renunciation is giving up the focus on these and going towards the focus on this. Temptation is giving up the focus on this and going towards the focus on this. Make sense? All right, let's go on, and I'm going to show you something that I haven't seen elsewhere. And this may be, this is the first time I've seen this. I don't know if it is the first time you've seen this, but I hope you'll spread this idea anyway. So let me share with you that, what does all this mean? Okay, this is spiritual growth through altruistic service. I'm sorry. On the one hand, it's spiritual growth through altruistic service on this end. On this end, it's worldly experiences, worldly success. So when you have just less than enough, okay, when you have just less than enough of money or food or health or relationships or fame or sensory pleasures or vacations or collecting, when you have just less than enough, you are being asked to stretch in your spiritual growth, because you are not comfortable. You are just less than comfortable. It provides you an opportunity for spiritual growth through altruistic service, okay? When you have just enough, it's a respite. You get to rest in spiritual growth, and you get to use the world as a respite for your soul, just as a respite, not as. And so, what I guess a great analogy would be, and a great analogy and a story of thinking about what this life is about is we are here in a spiritual gymnasium. You are not just a human being. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And you have been brought here, or you've chosen to be here, excuse me, to be in a spiritual gymnasium. Now, when you go to a gym, do you look at the lounge and say, oh, the purpose of this gym is to hang out in the lounge and to eat the food that's there and to go to the bathroom and to talk with people in the lounge? No, that lounge is a respite, okay? The purpose of the gymnasium is to stretch, is to be slightly uncomfortable, because that grows your muscles, okay? That grows your health. Okay, so that's why we're really here, is to stretch. But we also need a respite sometimes to, indulge, right? That's why we indulge in that chocolate chip cookie. I indulge sometimes because it's a respite. I sleep, plenty of hours because it's a respite, but it's not really the purpose of why we're here. So this might even be called purpose, okay? Now, here's the problem. When you have more than enough of the respite, you get into attachment and addiction and temptation, and it's a trap. You become, the snares of the world is what the old traditions, the ancient teachings tell us. Okay, you become addicted. Okay, you become attached. And guess what? You have a really hard time going to the next level of consciousness. or going to heaven, whatever you want to call it, okay? So you want to just go to stretch. You want to basically keep going between stretch and respite, stretch and respite. Now, here's the problem. For some of us who have really high ideals, we renunciate, right? We renounce renunciation, we renounce the world, and we sometimes when we renounce the world, we have far less than enough, and we become cynical. We become tired. We become sick and tired of not having enough money. We become sick and tired of not having enough fame. We become sick and tired of not having that relationship. We become sick and tired of not having enough health. Fill in the blank. We become sick and tired of not having these things. And what happens when we become sick and tired is we jump all the way down to I don't fucking care anymore. I'm sorry for the language. I really should bleep this out. This is a PG or G-rated video. Sorry about that. Children, don't learn that language. But we become sick and tired, and therefore we jump right back into I'm just gonna get rich. I'm gonna get famous. It's all about those things, and we become addicted. Do you see how this cycle works? So it's really, we have to be really careful to go between these two and not go too far or not go too far this way. Okay. And if we just go in between these two, we can do what Gandhi says, which is to live simply so that others may simply live. Right? Okay. Let me stop the screen sharing and go on here. So here's the problem is that the respite is so easy for the respite part. The money, fame, sensory pleasures, vacations, collecting knowledge, wanting things to go our way, convenience and speed. It's so easy for that respite to become a distraction for us, right? And so we have to continually look at those things not as success, money, fame, power, health, possessions, relationships, convenience, speed, other people doing what we want them to do, things going our way. Those things are not success. Those things are a respite. We can touch on those things occasionally to rest our souls before we then stretch in the purpose of life. The purpose of going to a gym here in this life is to stretch our spiritual muscles so we can go to the next level of consciousness and then the next level of consciousness until we eventually reach God and we have perfect bliss, perfect compassion, perfect wisdom, perfect courage, perfect humility, perfect self-discipline. It's true joy, and you have experienced that. I know you have, and I know I've experienced some of that too. And when I'm there, when I do what's right, it makes me feel so good. So it's not sensory pleasure anymore, it's spiritual pleasure. And so the purpose of life really is to learn to sense what spiritual pleasure is and to do more of that, right? Let me see what else I wanted to share with you. One of the greatest traps, especially if you follow other marketing teachers and business teachers, one of the greatest traps is they always are teaching you to play a bigger game. Because again, when they say play a bigger game, they are suggesting to you a definition of success is fame, or a definition of success is to help lots of people. But when they say that, they're really, again, they're mostly trying to sell you a program or they're consulting or training or whatever, right? Play a bigger game. They're really trying to sell you something. But the play a bigger game is actually, the temptation is fame. Or if I played a bigger game, I would help more people. It's really fame. It's really money, okay? It's really pinning your self-worth on lots of people saying you're great, in other words. And I want to share with you a couple of quotes that really connect us to the ancient truths that are still as true today as it was back then, which is one quote's by Helen Keller. Helen Keller, the great activist, the person who was blind and deaf and mute, and yet she was a great activist and she accomplished a lot in her life. She said, "I long to accomplish a great and noble task, but my chief duty is to accomplish small tasks as if they were great and noble." And this is the spiritual truth, is that you don't have to play a bigger game. You don't have to be famous or help lots of people. You need to do whatever's in front of you, given to you today, as if it's a great and noble task. And that's where you get the spiritual truth, spiritual growth, right? Another quote from Ernest Hemingway. is there is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self. So it's about spiritual growth, which is becoming more conscious than what you were previously. Okay, being able to live in a higher ideal than what you were able to do previously. Now that is why we're here. Not to, in other words, the people who are trying to play a bigger game have forgotten that the biggest game, the greatest game, was available to them all along. It's to do whatever task, small or big, that is given to you today, with full mindfulness, with full gratitude, with full excellence. Now that is the greatest game. That's the biggest game for everyone else to play, of us to play. Because not everyone can play the bigger game as the marketing teachers, business teachers trying to tell. Not everyone can become famous and help lots of people. Not everyone can help lots of people, right? Because all of us can only be helped by a certain number of people, right? So not everyone logically can help lots of people, but everyone can play the greatest game of doing what's in front of them today with full gratitude, mindfulness, and excellence. One more quote, and this is by Mother Teresa. Don't look for big things. Just do small things with great love. The smaller the thing, the greater must be our love. Coming back to redefining success. It's not big. Redefining success as actually small, because in the small is the biggest game. Okay, so let's actually talk about, really quickly, I just want to take 5 more minutes to talk about what the practices are. Okay, so the practices to redefine success every day is the number 1, have a concise definition for what success means to you. So a couple of ideas. Concise definition. Okay, every day wake up and say success is spirituality through service, or spiritual growth through altruistic service, or doing the small things today with as much love as possible. That's what success is. Okay, so have a concise definition for yourself of what success means that inspires you, that brings you back to what is truly true. Okay, not what all the marketers and business teachers are telling us what's true, what's truly true. Your soul's telling you what's true. Number 2 is define what success is not. Because if you do not define what success is not, other people will, their definitions of success will seep into your consciousness, and you'll start to, one day you'll wake up and go, oh my God, I've spent 5 years pursuing 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, and I'm miserable now. My soul is miserable because I've lied to a lot of people. I've manipulated a lot of people to get here. I have fill in the blank. I have neglected my family, my friends to get here, right? Define what success is not, so you can call those things a respite. The lounge of the gymnasium, not the gymnasium itself. You're going to the gym for the exercise, not for sitting around in the lounge. So define what the lounge is. Define what the purpose of the gym is. Okay, what the exercise equipment is, right? So whenever I see someone promoting 6-figure this, 7-figure that, what I do is I just take a quick moment and I breathe and I say, oh, that's their definition of success. Mine is spirituality through service, because that's what's been taught and proven generation after. That's what's going to bring me to a higher level of consciousness. That's what's going to bring me to heaven, right? Okay, 3rd practice. Okay, well, number 1, define consciously what success is. 2nd is define what success is not. Remind yourself of that. 3rd is to do your spiritual practice multiple times a day. I really don't think it's enough to meditate once a day or to pray once a day, because the day is 24 hours long. Okay, the waking hours are, anywhere between, depending on how much you sleep, 17 to 14 to 18 hours is your waking hours. So in 14 to 18 hours, you only pray once, you only meditate once. It would be better if you meditated or prayed throughout the day. And so a practice I've been doing for the last 2 months, it's been amazing for me, is I pray 12 times a day. I know that sounds like a lot, but the prayer can simply be 10 seconds long. 10 seconds long. But it keeps bringing me back multiple times a day to what success is, to what purpose of life is. Otherwise, Everything around me, all the emails I see, all the things I see on social media, all what my friends tell me, or what the media tells me, it's telling me 6 figures, 7 figures. The lifestyle of the rich and famous, basically, is what success is being told to us by society. So that's a third practice: pray or meditate, whatever you need to do to meditate multiple times a day, throughout the day. The fourth practice is to read daily, and I recommend morning and evening reading. So the first thing I do in the morning and the last thing I do at night is to do some spiritual reading, which connects me to what is truly true, what is truly true, which is not life is about getting rich and famous and then pursuing God. No, life is about pursuing God, whether we ever get rich or famous or have lots of vacations. Because we know, I mean, I know anyway, that this life is one of many that we live, and that after this gymnasium experience, we get to go home, and that's where all the bliss and creativity and love and the people waiting for us are, okay? So fourth is to do some spiritual reading to remind you what this is all about, morning and evening preferably. Practice number 5 is to be around those who share those values. Now, for you, it may simply be watching this video series when you can, because I always try to remind you of what I believe is truly true, rather than what the mainstream society is telling us is success. So be around others who share those values, whether you're consuming regular content like this or in our community called Our Highest Work, where I'm always trying to remind us what is truly true, and you can hang out with others like us. Or find someone either in our community or a friend who you can talk with on a regular basis. Say, can we please talk once a week or even every day for just 5 minutes, just to remind us, just to check in and remind us of how we have pursued what's truly true today, right? Practice number 6 is to share values-based content every day. If you can, if you're on social media every day, if you can share something every day that reminds others of what is truly true, you are doing them a true favor of their spiritual growth, okay? Or maybe it's not every day. Maybe you share something about what's truly true every 3 days, but do it on a regular basis so that when you share it, you remind yourself very strongly, and then you remind others in your audience, and that they will remind you, there'll be a conversation around that, and you'll always keep reminding each other what's truly true. Or if you're not on social media, if you don't like to share things, then simply journal. Simply write down every day what's truly true, and in fresh ways, what's truly true that can be applied to your day today, okay? What you have to do today. And seventh spiritual practice is to celebrate every time you find yourself on the road to true success, multiple times a day. And so what I mean is, if you catch yourself right now, I've been reminded of what's truly true, of what success really is about. Smile and celebrate. Do a little happy dance. Just whatever you need to do to celebrate, or just even say yes. Celebrate as many times a day as you can, when you are reminded, when you come back to what's truly true. Because this is from the work of a Stanford habit psychologist called B.J. Fogg. His website is tinyhabits.com, or just Google Tiny Habits. Highly recommend it. His very simple idea is, if you keep celebrating, just do a quick celebration whenever you want to do something you want to do, you will reinforce that action into a habit. So a quick celebration, again, is going to be yes, or doing a happy dance, or whatever you need to do. It needs to be quick, but it needs to have some emotion. Celebrate what you want to reinforce, and that becomes a habit. So I hope this has been inspirational for you. I hope you will redefine success every day. So until our next episode, remember that your destiny, truly where you are headed, is secure. It's perfect bliss, truly. It's perfect bliss, perfect love, perfect understanding, perfect power, perfect creativity. That's where you are headed without fail. And because of that, until our next episode, every day, redefine success. Be well. Hi, this is George Kao. In this video, I want to talk about something that isn't addressed in a lot of business trainings or marketing teachings. And that's the idea of what really is our goal, or rather, what really is our definition of success. If you follow a lot of business coaches, marketing trainers, uh, they continually force upon you in subtle ways their definition of success. I don't know about you, but I often, when I used to subscribe to the email lists of, some of my partners and other successful business coaches and marketing coaches and trainers and teachers and business gurus, they often suggest six-figure this. I just saw another one today, create a six-figure course. Or now actually it's 7 figures, and I'm sure before long it'll be 8 figures. The continual use of these terms, 6 figures, 7 figures, or live the life of your dreams, or a couple of main points. One is why it is so important to define what success is not. Second point is, how do we relate to the relationship between spiritual growth and worldly success? And then what are some practices that will keep us connected and on the path that we really want to be on? In other words, how do we make sure we're climbing the ladder on the right wall that we want to be climbing? Have you heard of that idea that someone works so hard all their life, they're climbing this ladder, and they get to the top and they find out it's the wrong wall. They're actually trying to go into this kingdom, but they've climbed up to this other kingdom that they don't really want to be at. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And let's just make things really, really simple, okay? To make it simple, I just want to say that the purpose of life, or true success, for my definition, and I want you to take a moment right now and answer the question for yourself. What is the purpose of life? What is true success? Probably agree with this as well. And why is it important to look at the ancient traditions? So let me take a moment here, because there are a lot of spiritual fads. There are a lot of new spiritual teachers that say that they're getting the spiritual truth from some entity or from some being. Now, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that we need to take a step back and realize that if an idea has been passed along from one generation to another generation, okay, it's probably not a bad idea. Okay, let me stay with me here, right? How many, just one example, how many marketing ideas or business ideas have been the hot thing 1 year, and then the next year or the year after, it's gone, like nobody cares about it anymore, or people say it doesn't work. And yet there are some business or marketing ideas, such as get to know the mind and heart of your customer, because if you get to know their mind and heart, you will naturally produce services and products that match their mind and heart. Yes. I would love to know what your answer is. I mean, just really the first thing that comes to mind for you, write that down. First or second or third things that come to mind for you, write that down. What is the purpose of life? What is true success? Okay. Here, I'm going to share with you my answer. My answer is very simple. The purpose of life, or true success, is spirituality through service. Spirituality through service. And if we were to go a little bit deeper, I would say it's spiritual growth through altruistic service, selfless service. Now, I don't know if you agree with me, but if you'll stay with me, I'll kind of flesh this out. And you might be wondering, well, George, where are you getting these ideas? Where is this coming from? Well, it's coming from my studies of the world's ancient spiritual traditions: Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, particularly those three. But I think that other religions, probably Islam, Jainism, Sikhism, you know, 4-hour work week, or the continual suggestion is that success equals being rich in money and being able to go on vacations all the time, or being able to take breaks to being able to do your hobbies all the time. And I want to ask you, is that your definition of success as well, truly? From your soul, from your highest place in your heart and in your mind, is that your definition of success? Because it might not be, but it might just be that you have been so, and you and I have been so inundated with marketing, with emails, with things we see on social media, with things we see on advertising and on mainstream media, that we have forgotten what we truly are going for. We have forgotten what is true to our soul's highest calling. In other words, we've forgotten our highest work. And so in this episode, I'm going to share